Now there are four major ways that people deal with conflict. Avoidance, accommodation, in a positional strategy, which often is a kind of a win-lose thing, and an interest-based strategy, which we're going to spend the majority of our time on. Now, every choice has its consequence. Really quickly, avoidance, sometimes people flee, right? Sometimes the best thing to do is get out of the situation. And I'm not going to tell you that is not a bad strategy. Sometimes it works. Now, this is often, if you wait long enough, maybe Professor Beck will die. You could try it. You have to wait. Okay? Now, the accommodating strategy is always giving in. Always giving in. Right? Avoidance is running away. Accommodation is giving in. Now, how does that make you feel? Right? Again, it might work for you. Avoidance is you don't argue at times with your aged parents. Right? I mean, there are people that you avoid or that you accommodate. Okay? Positional is when you're buying a used car and you're going to get it for the lowest price that you can. And you don't care because you're never going to see that car dealer again. Right? Often we use win-lose strategies, very positional approach, which we'll see more in a second, in situations where, as far as we're concerned, the relationship stakes don't matter compared to the specific outcome that we're out to get. An interest-based strategy is different. Any one of these might work depending on what the context is. But we better understand the context because every one of these choices of strategy has a consequence, both intended and potentially unintended in the situation. Okay? Now, a positional approach. The classical positional approach is all about stating a position and then trying to maximize your outcome around that, and using certain strategies to get it. So a position is the claim you're making for yourself or others concerning an issue, an open question, which we're going to get to in a bit. Now, the position is the single option that you state that you want. So for example, I want my name first in the article listing, right? Or your dissertation is not ready to defend. Those are positional statements. Doesn't make them wrong, but they're positional, okay? Statements have a tendency to close conversation. Questions have a tendency to open up conversation. So we have to look at how do we open up conversation? How do we maximize the kind of options that we have and everything else? So, we already did this a little bit, but I think that the thing that you have to understand about the issue is in many conflicts, they can race right by each other because they think they're asking different questions. Right? They think that they're answering different questions. So the first thing that you have to really understand when you're out to resolve a conflict is what's the issue here? Right? And the issue is the immediate question for which you need an answer. It might not be the only basis of conflict, but it's the question needing attention now. Right? Framing it up. What's the question that we need to answer? So like, who should be on my committee? When will I defend my dissertation? Importantly, when you're out to resolve a conflict, both parties must agree on what the issue is. As I get older and older, and that's, by the way, the goal that all of us should have, as I get older and older, I am absolutely convinced that it's all about clarity. The degree to which we can get clear as to what's going on in the situation, sometimes it turns out that there is no conflict. So the first thing we have to get clear about, we both have to agree on what the actual question is that needs an answer. There might be multiple ones. Now, just a quick 2-second digression. This is often a situation where people say, wait a second, there was a lot of stuff, it was really about male-female stuff, or sometimes it's about race, or sometimes it's about age. It could be about disciplinary stuff. All of that stuff is unbelievably important. Unbelievably important. But what's also important is that everybody get on the same page quickly as to what is the immediate question that needs answering. so that you can put the other things within the perspective and figure out what's actually going on in the situation. Getting the immediate questions out that actually need an answer in the situation is very important then to explore all the dynamics. But you've got to make sure you're on the same page as to what is actually going on in terms of kind of functional questions that need answers. Now, once you understand what the issue is, we jump and look at what the tradition is. This is the positional approach, and this is what it looks like. You say, this is what I want. And I say, no, this is what I want. And we set up this perfect, at times, little linear thing, and lo and behold, it's a railroad, right? And we have this old, railroad car, and we go back and forth with perfectly good arguments as to why I should get what I want. Now, that'd be nice if it was a level playing field. But it's not a level playing field. So some people have a harder time pushing that puppy up the hill, right? Because the fact that positional power simply means that you are in an unequal situation. And again, this could be about some of those gender dynamics, racial dynamics, and other things. But the important thing is, what this has set up traditionally is that somewhere in the middle, there might be this land of make-believe called compromise. Okay? Now, we've been told our entire life, one way or another, that compromise can be both good and bad. Now, let's go look at that real quick. Why can compromise be bad? Well, let's go first good. Why can compromise be good? What's good about a compromise?
In principle, it resolves your issue.
Okay, so it very well may be that it resolves the issue. We'll come back to that. Why else is compromise a good thing? Everybody walks away with something, right? Why else is it good? Okay, it very well may stop it from escalating, and to a degree, it very well may, at least temporarily through a truce, salvage the relationship, right? Except for the fact that sometimes a lot of energy goes into moving that train, right? So again, people feel, well, I walked away with half a loaf. Well, the issue is whether or not half a loaf was enough. Was the compromise workable? Is it something that can actually fit in this situation, right? And this assumes a linear thing that doesn't always exist in life, right? It isn't always linear. And we can go into negotiation theory, but I won't spend any longer on it except to say that if you want to be on one side of the Gobi Desert, and I want to be on one side of the Gobi Desert, finding ourselves in the middle of the desert is not a good place, okay? We've been told that compromise builds character. We've been told that, everybody reads their Bible wrong because they say, like the wisdom of Solomon, split the baby. That would not have been good for the baby, okay? Compromise at times becomes unworkable. It often leaves things with situations that are simply going to be bad later. It sometimes delays inevitable conflict. So we're going to throw this out because that doesn't necessarily work. Instead, we use what's called an interest-based or interest-informed strategy.